So the trade deadline season is upon us. The NBA trade deadline happens in about 10 days from now, and I have 10 different trades that could make sense at the 2022 NBA trade deadline. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? So these are just 10 ideas that I think could be good for both teams heading into the 2022 deadline. I think I might be a little bit too optimistic on some of these players that could end up moving. I'll give you kind of what I think about each trade for each team involved, as well as if I think a team would say no, because I'm not in a front office. I don't know what these players' value is or at the moment. So there's teams that are bound to say no, might say a team's getting a little bit of the better side of this deal, or a team maybe needs to throw in another asset, either it's a pick or a player. But yeah, 10 trades. Let me know anything I mentioned that you don't like or anything I don't mention that you think I should have down below. Drop a like if you do enjoy these videos, and let's get into it. So the first one is maybe me being a too optimistic Knicks fan, because I saw this idea on The Athletic and I actually kind of love it. I think this would be great for the Knicks. I think the team that would say no would be the Cavs for, I guess, one reason. So the Knicks would be trading away Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, in the 2023 top 10 protected Dallas pick from the Kristaps Porzingis trade. And then the Cavs would be trading away Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton. So those are two players that are out for the year that are free agents in 2022. Ricky Rubio being unrestricted, and Colin Sexton being restricted. So the reason why the Knicks would do this, they get off the Burks contract, which isn't a negative contract by any means, but it frees up some more minutes for Quentin Grimes, for Cam Reddish. They trade away Evan Fournier. This is a big thing for them, getting off that $17 million a year contract, and that's why they probably have to attach this first round pick as well. Maybe they need to give up more in this trade to land Ricky Rubio, who would just kind of either, I don't think he would get bought out or anything. He just wouldn't play. Maybe he could be a nice leader for Quickly or for maybe any of the other young guards like Deuce McBride. And they get Colin Sexton. So they probably wouldn't bring back Rubio, but they would look to maybe re-sign Colin Sexton, because they would get his bird rights, his restricted rights, and they could look or he could be maybe part of their future in the long term if they want to sign him. And that's if the Cavs probably aren't going to re-sign Sexton, and then maybe they could still go after Rubio because he's a one-year deal. The reason why the Cavs wouldn't do this, so the big no, is because maybe they still want the bird rights on Sexton, or they don't view Fournier's contract or they view it as a massive negative for the next 3 years after this one, or it's 2 more years in a team contract. So it's not the worst contract in the world, because you're going to eventually have to pay Mobley. You already paid Allen. You're going to eventually have to pay Garland sooner than Mobley. So yeah, like, you're going to have money tied up, and Fournier's contract will be done by then anyways. And this is really for the Cavs going all in this year. Burks and Fournier would be huge to their bench, which has been decimated by injuries this year. And the Cavs probably don't want to be in the play-in tournament. They've been playing well enough where they don't even need to think about that. So yeah, they probably want top 6 playoff hopes, and Burks and Fournier can contribute right away. You don't have any other like random first round picks down the line, so this Dallas pick could be nice for you in 2023. I think this only gets done if the Cavs are like fully set on not re-signing Colin Sexton, and they don't view Fournier's contract as a big negative asset, because we've seen Fournier play well in a smaller market like Orlando, him struggling a little bit in the bigger markets like Boston and New York, so maybe moving to Cleveland would be better for his career. Next up, we have a Jeremy Grant trade. So Jeremy Grant could also be thrown in a Lakers idea around THT in a first, but I threw in the Timberwolves because I like the Timberwolves a lot. Them, like the Cavs, haven't had a lot of playoff success in a while. And for the Cavs, I mean, post LeBron, or just not a LeBron-led team. Timberwolves made it to the playoffs in 2019, but got bounced in round 1, or excuse me, that was 2018. And this trade right here, the Pistons may want more. Maybe they prefer Malik Beasley, and I don't think Minnesota would want to trade Jared Vanderbilt, but the Pistons are basically getting an expiring contract in Prince, Okogie, who will be a restricted free agent, but they might want him in the long term for his defensive ability, but that's up in the air. But they can get a first round pick. Say the Timberwolves are the 7th seed or the 8th seed this year. That would be a nice pick around 15 or 16, as well as the Timberwolves getting Jeremy Grant. Now, that could be like a top 10 protected first, and maybe the Pistons would want that more. Maybe this isn't enough value in return for Jeremy Grant, and that could definitely be a side of things here. So I think the Pistons would be more likely to say no, but the Timberwolves, I mean, you could have a lineup of Russell, Edwards, Grant, and Vanderbilt. That's solid. That's good enough to make the playoffs as, I think, a 6th seed, or it's tough in the Western Conference, but at least win the play-in tournament and make it to the playoffs for the first time since 2018, and then actually have a future outside of that because they traded their future for Jimmy Butler, and then he got traded the next year. So maybe they would look to re-sign Grant, and I think this would be good for the Timberwolves. The Pistons may want Malik Beasley. I don't know if that multi-year contract of Malik Beasley would be a negative to them. Maybe they'd want Jared Vanderbilt. I don't know if that would get it done. Maybe they want Bolmaro. Maybe they want Jaden McDaniels, who's been playing solid as of late. So that could be something that the Pistons would want to do this as well. Trade number 3, you know I had to mention it. It's a De'Aaron Fox for Domantas Sabonis swap, but it's also Marvin Bagley and Karis LeVert in this trade. So this is, I think, a great return for the Pacers. I think like trading Sabonis, getting De'Aaron Fox, I think is very nice for the future. And he's probably just as good. Sabonis is a better player in my opinion, but I think Fox could use that new scenery. I think just kind of change the scenery. Him being under Rick Carlisle would be by far his best head coach yet of his career. I think would do wonders for him. You take a shot on Marvin Bagley, who will be a free agent at the end of the year, but he could slide in. Maybe him and Turner would be a great front court kind of tandem there. As for the Kings, Sabonis on one of the best contracts in the league. He's an all-star big. You get Karis LeVert also in this trade, and I think Bagley for LeVert will be fine enough and will kind of make you better. The way Halliburton is playing, I think that could open up to trading Fox, and I think the Kings probably, or excuse me, like just the overall NBA front offices probably value Sabonis more than Fox. But when they're on, like, because Fox is having a down year, but like last year Fox, people probably prefer Fox because point guards, I don't know. I just because Sabonis can't really shoot threes at a clip where it's like, okay, he's like as valuable as like a Jokic or a Cat, you know? I feel like that could always hold him back in his defensive ability at times. So I think that the Pacers would be the team to say no, but it's a good, I think, start, like a Fox or Sabonis, and then I think you could squeeze in LeVert and Bagley. Maybe the Kings have to throw in a first-round pick in this deal. Trade number 4 gets Miles Turner from Indiana to Charlotte. There's going to be some indie trades in here. I hope they move at least one of Turner, LeVert, and Sabonis, because that would just be a big, like, what the hell if you can't move any of them. But Pritchard and Buchanan probably have just, they overvalue their players at times. They don't want to give it up, which is a good mindset to have. We're seeing it in the Daryl Morey mindset right now. But yeah, I think this is a great trade for the Hornets. You give up that Pelicans pick that you got for Devontae Graham. You give up PJ Washington. That's pretty much the value you're giving up. I think you'd be fine moving on from Mason Plumlee. He's really just there to make the money work because I don't think they'd want to trade Kelly Oubre because the Hornets haven't really been competitive in a while. Like, even with Kemba Walker, they weren't one of the most competitive teams by any means. So they want to, I think, make the playoffs. And if Turner's going to play again this year, man, you could have Ball, you'll have Rozier, Hayward, Bridges, include Oubre at times, and Miles Turner I think would be fantastic for that team, like the Cavs, trying to make the playoffs, and not even be in the play-in tournament. Not worry about that. Try to take a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. This would be a fantastic move for them. And I think for the Pacers, getting PJ Washington in a first-round pick. They threw the value out like what Aaron Gordon was. RJ Hampton in a first. I think this is pretty much similar value. I think PJ Washington is probably a more NBA-ready player. Probably not as high as an upside or of an upside than RJ Hampton, but I think a higher floor. And I think the first-round pick, swing the deal. I like this a lot. You can maybe take a flyer on Nick Richards as well because they lack a lot of big man depth there in Indiana. So they'd get 3 bigs here. You get a first-round pick. Charlotte, win-now move. I actually love this for both sides. I don't see why any team here would say no. I don't. Okay, so back on another Knicks idea I have here. This might be not enough, clearly, for the Knicks. And I think we all kind of fall into that rabbit hole of our favorite teams and not valuing enough. I think maybe the Knicks would have to include an Obi Toppin, possibly, or an Emmanuel Quickley in this trade. I think this only could possibly get done is if the Dallas Mavericks are fully set on not paying Jalen Brunson. He's been playing very well this year, but they realize they already kind of have their point guard, their lead guard for the future in Luka. It's not worth paying Brunson $20 million a year if he's never going to really be like putting them over the edge with Luka. They'd rather allocate that $20 million per year elsewhere, 15, whatever he gets a year. So they're like, okay, we're just gonna get value for him at the deadline. Alec Burks helps them right now, immediately gives them a spot up shooter to play around Luka Doncic. Can also be great off their bench. Would be funny. They would have Burks, Hardaway, Bullock, all these former Knick wings, and then they get their first round pick back in 2023. Like I said, maybe they want Quentin Grimes in this deal. Maybe they want Emmanuel Quickley or Obi Toppin. I don't know if the Knicks would be willing to give that up when they could just sign possibly Brunson in the offseason or do a sign and trade with him then. I think this only comes down to the Mavericks being like, okay, Burks for Brunson, not going to lose much value there for the regular season. I'd rather have Brunson than Burks, but they're like, okay, that maybe loses us 1 more game or 2 more games. Like, in the grand scheme of things, we have Luka Doncic. We want to build this team and continue to build this team around them, and they get a first-round pick for somebody that they're not going to re-sign in the offseason. I think that's what it comes down to. I think maybe this wouldn't be enough for Brunson, in my opinion, but if Dallas is already set on not paying him because they think it'll be an overpay in the offseason, then this is a good deal for them. All right, this is another trade here. Last one involving the Pacers, and then our second one involving the Cavs. It's basically Ricky Rubio for Caris LeVert. The Cavs give up their lottery-protected first-round pick this year, and this is amazing value, I think, for the Pacers. LeVert has been disappointing this year. He was on one of my top players to break out this year. I was very excited about that. A list that did have, I think it had Darius Garland. I mean, it was like Kevin Porter Jr., Keldon Johnson, RJ Barrett was on this list. Yeah, Garland was on that list. But yeah, like Ricky Rubio, it's just really salary match here. You can also re-sign Rubio in the offseason if you're Cleveland. I'm sure they would want to bring him back. And then you basically give up your lottery protected first round pick. Say you are 6 or 17 and that pick ends up being 17, but LeVert helps you out like a team that desperately needs other shot creators and pretty much kind of scores. And well, I guess like going back on the Knicks one, they have such a good defensive front court with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Like for Fournier's defense especially, he'd be a good spot up shooter when Garland's handling the offense, and then like Mobley inside, and then Mobley and Allen can really kind of pick up his viability on the defensive end. And I think LeVert, I think a better defender than Evan Fournier. Not the best defender ever, but yeah, they have a great defensive front court. They have a good defensive wing in Isaac Okoro. These guys can pick up the kind of slack that some of these guards maybe would provide them on the defensive end. So I think this is a good shape for the Cavs. Maybe they want to make that first round pick top 20, turns into 2 seconds. Maybe they want, I don't know, maybe they like Jetty Osman, or maybe they like another young player they have on their team. I don't think they would include Okoro at all. That would be silly. So I think that's something that the Cavs can look at as well as take a flyer on LeVert to help them get a top 6 seed or 7 seed, or at least just make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference and prove to us that you can make it without LeBron, because they've been playing phenomenal this year. All right, we got 4 trades left. Here's the first Lakers one. It really comes down to would the Spurs ever make a deal with the Lakers? I don't know. We all remember what happened with Kawhi Leonard in the 2018 offseason. And yeah, it basically would be Kendrick Nunn, Talen Horton-Tucker for Derek White, who would just be an immediate upgrade for this Lakers team who desperately needs kind of depth purposes. You would hope White would hit more of his shots, more of his threes in LA. Could be good centering him because he's a good defender around, I guess, LeBron and Westbrook. Not saying he can play that Caruso role, but I think maybe provide a little bit more on offense than Caruso did. But Caruso developed into such a great defender for the Lakers over the last couple of years. You give up THT and Nunn, which really doesn't hurt your immediate rotation. You get a deal done without giving up a first-round pick, because maybe the price tag between Derek White and some of the other guys like Christian Wood or Jeremy Graham would involve a first-round pick or a young player that has more value than Talen Horton-Tucker. So it really comes down, I think that the Lakers should and would say yes to this deal. I think that a team like the Spurs may demand that 2027 first, but the Lakers may be like, we don't really have a lot of draft capital. It's probably not worth giving up our 2027 first for Derek White. He might not be the needle mover, but he's under contract, and I think this could be a good trade if the Spurs are willing to deal with the Lakers. All right, so this one kind of hurt my head the most. I don't really know where to value Marcus Smart at all, but there's been reports that or rumors that Atlanta really wants Marcus Smart, and we could probably all figure out that or why, because Trae Young, not a great defender, Marcus Smart, a great defender. Boom, there you go. There's your backcourt match, and it's not like they need Marcus Smart to be a scorer for them. He could be easily the 4th kind of scorer in that offense when you already have DeAndre Hunter, you have Bogdan Bogdanovic, you have John Collins, maybe more of a necessity on the offensive end than Clint Capella. But yeah, you basically give up your lottery protected first round pick. You don't make the playoffs. Maybe that goes to 2 seconds. But yeah, for this deal, you'd have to give up Bogdan Bogdanovic. You could also think about Kevin Huerter as well, but it'd be tough because his contract extension doesn't kick in until next year. So this one was tough. I really wanted to get a Marcus Smart to Atlanta trade. I don't know what it would look like. I don't think Boston, I don't think Capella would be involved, but maybe, because Okongwu can kind of slide in there as the starting center. So this one is maybe what I need advice from you guys in the comments below. Celtics fans, Hawks fans, what would maybe a smart Atlanta trade want? Would the Celtics only want Kevin Huerter? Would they only want Clint Capella? I'm not really sure. Would they want Jalen Johnson included or more draft capital? Would the Hawks not give up a first round pick, or they don't want to give up Bogdan Bogdanovic because he kind of can be that score off the bench for them, maybe come playoff time. So I don't know. This one is the one I'm kind of skeptical the most about. I don't really know where the value is, so don't take this one too seriously. So let me know that one down below. But I like the idea of Smart to Atlanta. All right, second and last trade here. We have the Chicago Bulls making a win now move, seeing that they could possibly win it all this year with the Bucks not being as maybe scary as they were last year, or just showing that they could possibly beat the Bucks. The Nets' whole injuries and drama coming around there. Philly still isn't trading Ben Simmons. The Heat, they could view them as beatable. The Bulls could make a play to win it all this year, 100%. So this would be a win now move, giving up Derrick Jones Jr., mainly to make the money work, and Patrick Williams. You get Christian Wood and David Nwaba, and I think David Nwaba could provide you just kind of, it could be a better option than Derrick Jones Jr., who's hurt at the moment. Patrick Williams, you're giving up the 4th overall pick from the 2020 draft, which is a big thing. You're getting Christian Wood, who you could put at the 4, put it in between DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. Now, you could also offer the same thing up for Jeremy Grant as well, and I think if you're including Patrick Williams, you don't need to give up other draft capital. You can keep Kobe White, who can provide you offense off the bench come playoff time. And because Wood, you might not want that defensive front court of Vucevic and Wood, so that's why you may rather go after Jeremy Grant, But I think the Bulls could be in the market to make a win now move. You don't have to give up any first-round picks for the future. And it's really if you don't think Patrick Williams could really develop into the guy you thought you were going to get with the 4th overall pick. As for the Rockets, I think like Christian Wood, who could leave you in a year, this is a pretty good return. And finally, the last one. Yeah, when is it going to happen? I had to include this, right? I think it should happen. I don't think it will happen. This is Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, and 2 first-round picks for Bradley Beal. The Wizards aren't going to move Beal, but this would be a fantastic return. Now, Simmons and Dinwiddie, I don't really agree with that. But hey, you would have Simmons. You'd have Hashimura. You'd have Avdia, Matisse Thybulle. You'd have Corey Kispert. You'd have more draft capital. It's a good start. You have Kuzma. You have Daniel Gafford. You have a good young core there, and I think the Wizards should do that. I don't know, maybe the Sixers only want Maxey instead of Thybulle. I don't know who the Sixers would rather give up. I don't. So I don't know if Beal can be the one come playoff time. And he hasn't been playing like the Bradley Beal we all know this year. So I don't know. This trade will probably not happen until the offseason if it does. Ben Simmons, he's not getting moved for McCollum. He's not getting moved for D'Angelo. He's not getting moved for these guys. We all know he's only getting moved for James Harden, Damian Lillard, or Bradley Beal. Those 3 guys have been the rumors at the moment. And Morey is going to... I think it's stupid because Joel Embiid, somebody that's had plenty of injury history, and... with his injury history, I don't think he's going to play into his mid to late 30s. I think we're witnessing his prime right now, and who knows how many prime years we're going to get of Embiid with his health. You're going to look at this guy who's playing like the MVP this year, and you're going to be like, yeah, we're not going to make this team better. We're not. We're just going to stand pat until I get what I want for Ben Simmons, and who knows? Maybe it works out in the offseason, and they get one of those 3 players, those aforementioned 3 players. But I think it's kind of crazy that you're going to not upgrade this team, waste one of them years of Embiid's prime, and who knows? Maybe it doesn't even work out. Maybe, I don't know. Because who's going to pay Ben Simmons or give up a lot for Ben Simmons? Because he hasn't played for a whole year. If you trade him in the offseason on a massive contract, who knows about the fit? I don't know. I really don't. So, this one I had to throw in here. Maybe the NBA shocks us and it happens. But, because the Sixers don't even want to do it for De'Aaron Fox, which I think is good value. And Fox has been playing poorly enough this year where you don't probably have to include him with Matisse Thybulle or multiple first-round picks. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about this one down below as well? So yeah, that is good for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did. Let me know if you enjoyed any of those trade ideas down below, or if you didn't. That is perfectly fine. Let me know all of that down below. I love you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.